Need for Speed Most Wanted in 2005 is undoubtedly the most successful Need for Speed game ever. If you look at its lasting impact, you know, its overall kind of influence it's had on the series, but not even just the Need for Speed series, racing games as a whole, it's absolutely huge. People love that game so much. Before people were asking for Underground 3, they were asking for a Most Wanted 2, and what they received was a not so Most Wanted 2. And today we're going to go ahead and kind of deep dive into why I think Need for Speed Most Wanted is the most influential Need for Speed game. In a lot of ways, it's the best Need for Speed game, you know, in the whole franchise, and why I think its lasting legacy still really affects us both positively and negatively today. And looking forward, what can Need for Speed do with this old abandoned franchise to really elevate themselves in the future? Because I do think there's things they can do to benefit themselves by using the Most Wanted name, but not tarnishing it like some people did. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the actual game and the success itself. Now, it's completely fine for you guys not to think that this isn't the best game. I know there's a lot of people, you get really annoyed for some reason when you say that, like, it's opinions, like, just chill the fuck out. In my opinion, Most Wanted, I'm not even sure if it's the best game. I think it's between that or Underground 2 for me, and a lot of that is nostalgia based. A lot of it is because of my childhood, and I'm okay with saying that out loud. Like, that doesn't really bother me. I'm not blinded by the nostalgia, so I think it kind of makes me a little bit more you know, analytic, is that the word? Of kind of like what I'm saying here. I know Underground 2 is almost nowhere near the game of that Most Wanted is. It's a little bit more intricate and it's a little bit harder, I think, but Most Wanted is definitely a fuller game. And in terms of popularity and sales, well, I don't think I think everyone knows that Most Wanted 2005 was the peak of that game's popularity, and well, that really isn't going to change. If we look in pop culture, even today, the Most Wanted 2005 M3 GTR is the most popular car in Need for Speed, definitely, and I'd argue maybe in video games as a whole. If anyone wants to argue that the Need for Speed Most Wanted M3 GTR isn't the most popular car, at least in that series, I don't understand. No, Eddie Skyline, no one knew what Eddie Skyline was before it was in 2015. Like, no one was saying, oh, I'm going to recreate Eddie Skyline. No. In every single game ever, it's almost as bad as Brian's Too Fast, Too Furious, Super and Skyline. Like, it's the exact same thing. It's like, it was everywhere, still is everywhere. Like, but there's a reason why people recreate that car so much in YouTube videos. It's because it gets views, because people want to see it. But not only that, look at this. This is a car from SEMA that was actually applied, that actually got in to SEMA. I'm not sure if they won anything, but this guy's got a whole YouTube channel where he made a replica build of the M3 GTR. Everything from the straight cut gears to the side exhausts to the right tint of silver. Like, this car is a genuine replica of the M3 GTR from the game almost 14 years ago. 14 years ago. People are still making this car, and it's 14 years old. Let that sink in. No one's making Eddie Skyline. There's that one weirdo who made the version from 2015 in Russia, but he's like, that doesn't count. No doubt. If anyone wants to argue with me in the comments, let's argue. That's fine. But like, high stakes, hot pursuit, Underground definitely blew up the series to a point where it went worldwide, but then Most Wanted cemented that place. As for all the other parts, and you know, with Hot Pursuit and stuff, I think those games definitely laid the groundwork for what would eventually become Need for Speed. But I don't think nowadays that is what Need for Speed is anymore. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear the truth and don't like to hear me say that, but I do think that's kind of the case. I hate tuners, I hate sport. Shut up. It's not about that. Like, I want to quickly say, anyone who has that stance, it's about loving cars. It's about the feeling of driving cars. And if you have that opinion, then you're playing Need for Speed for the wrong reasons. I've always played Need for Speed, and I've always played racing games because I like cars. That's always been the main motive for me to play racing games, is because I am a petrol head. So if you can't appreciate all types of automobile, I'm not saying you can't prefer one or the other, because I definitely do prefer, like, my European stuff, I prefer my Japanese stuff over my muscle car stuff. Like, that's just my personal preference. But if you can't, if you pick a side like it's a fucking camp, you need to grow the fuck up. Grow up! Anyway, but I'm on a tangent, but now we're gonna move forward. So like I said, I think we've kind of set this groundwork that, you know, Most Wanted 2005 was one of the most important games in the series. I will say this, I think the only game that comes close is either Underground 1 and 2. I think those two games are also very, very important. And obviously Hot Pursuit was very important because that was the first black box game. And there's a lot of history behind it. history. There's a lot of history behind it, obviously, evidently there's going to be. But I think Most Wanted definitely cements that place of being the golden game in the whole series. So like I said, moving forward, what does this mean for the series? What have they done wrong with the past few games, I feel, you know, kind of tarnishing that game's legacy? Well, a few things. Number one, the pre-order bonuses and the constant milking of nostalgia. I do feel that has happened, evidently. I don't know why Ghosts are trying to bring in lore from other games, because A, there's not really a lore, because the story was shit. Good for a Need for Speed game, but shit for everything else. And it's not yours to touch. That's how I see it, honestly, with Ghost. It's not really yours to touch. Of course, you're making Need for Speed games, but that's Black Box's stuff. Unless Black Box come from the dead, which is probably never going to happen, that's extremely unlikely, then why not create your own legacy instead of just milking nostalgia? Because that's not going to last very long. That's going to be a short-term thing, and realistically, it's just going to end you in even more trouble. Now, I do think there's ways of paying homage to these series in upcoming games. For example, unlocking NFS Edition cards to hardcore fans who actually play the game. Like, maybe make it so you have to get you have to play 1,000 multiplayer online games before you would then unlock an M3 GTR. Something like that makes sense, because then you're rewarding the player, and it's not just a cheap cash grab, or it's not, you know, just trying to bring the old legacy from games that you didn't make into it. It just doesn't really make much sense. There is ways of bringing those things in, and I'm not saying that I don't want to see, you know, the M3 GTR and legacy kits come into the game. I would love to see Eddie's Skyline and the actual original kit with the actual original sound. Same with the M3 GTR with the straight cut gears. I would love to see that come to the game. But the problem is when it's just not executed right, and there's a very fine line between when things feel cheesy and just like a rip-off, and it's a rip-off of nostalgia, and when things are executed right, and there's a fine middle balance of like finding where to do that. I don't feel like they've done that correctly yet. I do feel like Need for Speed has relied way too much on nostalgia. If we look at 2015, the M3 GTR was a deluxe edition pre-order bonus. Eddie's challenge was a whole, you know, DLC added to it, not to mention all the blacklist wraps they added. Now, I'm actually a really big fan of what they did by adding the legacy vinyls. I think that's awesome. Let your community create these old vinyls, you know, which from older games, by adding those in from, you know, Need for Speed to, you know, from years past, like 2005, etc. I think that's absolutely fantastic. What I don't like is how they failed to create their own world. They failed to create their own legacy, because they are abusing what was Black Box's work almost 14 years ago. Why they didn't make use of Travis from 2015 in Payback is actually beyond me, because Travis was actually the only good character in that game who actually felt like illegal and felt like similar to Razor and stuff, kind of. I don't know why they never brought him back, because he was actually a really good character. These are the things they need to build upon, and obviously it's not going to be easy. Like, the nostalgia things and using people like Razor and Mia from older games and Rachel and Eddie Skyline and stuff, using those things are obviously going to be easier in the short term because you're not building anything. But using characters like Travis, for example, it builds layers. I think he's the only one worth building upon, but you kind of get what I'm saying here. They need to take a step back and actually use the characters they have currently and the ones that worked. There's not many that did work, but I can definitely see there being a place for someone like Travis in a future Need for Speed game. Not only that, but I think they need to take a step back, and instead of using it to boost sales, they should use older games to kind of pay homage instead. I don't feel like there's a lot of homage paid looking back on it. In retrospect, back at the time, I thought it was quite heavy fan service, but looking back on it now, it seems more like a quick cash grab to get a bit of attention for an upcoming game. I hope these things are addressed in the next game, and I guess this is something which obviously only time will tell. But my hopes are high. I think the next Need for Speed game will be good. I think the things with the creative director are huge to look at, and I think the fact that obviously Marcus is left now, that's a huge thing. The whole direction of the game could change because of it. And I hope these little intricacies are the things that they nail on the head, because those are the things that worried me the most. And I hope that they can actually build upon their own characters and build upon what I want Ghost to be, because currently they've made 3 shit games, and that is the sad truth of it. Rivals 2015 Payback. And I don't need to explain why any of those are shit. If you want to see why those are shit, just literally go on my channel and type in Rivals is shit and you'll find out why. Anyway, that's my little video about Need for Speed Most Wanted over. I don't really have much else to say. This is a discussion video, so get your comments down in the description. Keep it civil, please. I don't want to have to ban anyone, but I will. And that's been it for me today. If you guys enjoyed, if you did, hit the like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe.